And just like that, the Giants have won a series against the playoff-bound Orioles on the road, something they've had trouble doing all season long, playing on the road. Could a hot finish be enough to save Farhan Zaidi's job? And were these comments on KNBR made by a host remotely appropriate regarding Farhan Zaidi? I say no.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and RotoGraphs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show since 2019, and I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, maybe in this case your last listen every day. It is coming out late. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And coming up on today's show, we are going to get into, the last couple of games for the Giants, winning the first two games in Baltimore, which, the Orioles are bound for the postseason, not officially yet, but a 10-0 win in the opener behind Blake Snell and obviously the offense, and then a 5-3 win with Hayden Birdsong having another really strong showing. He's been very up and down, but at the same time, when he's been up, he's been quite up. He did give up 3 runs in 5 2/3, but the command was good enough, and the bullpen held strong despite some sketchiness in the middle innings, and Ryan Walker, I should say, shut it down. But we're going to get into Farhan Zaidi. There's a lot of talk right now about Farhan Zaidi, but one of the comments that in the most recent episode that we got into was the Chronicle, first of all, disputing the Athletics report essentially about Buster Posey's involvement in the Matt Chapman extension. So if you want the full story there's 2 episodes about this. One, when the Athletic reported that basically Posey and ownership went over Zaidi's head to get this deal done, and the other from the Chronicle saying Zaidi was in the hospital twice, and Scott Boras, Matt Chapman's agent, completely disputing that there was anything abnormal about these negotiations, and that it was ultimately hammered out by he and Farhan Zaidi. So very interesting, nonetheless. Just very interesting stuff. And ultimately, one of the things that the Chronicle reported was that, according to industry sources, the Giants board of directors wanted to assess how the season's final weeks played out before making a decision on Zaidi. And then it goes on to say the campaign is not ending well, but now suddenly they've won a couple games in a row on the road against a team that's going to go to the playoffs. So as I said at the time, the season is not over. I said at the time they could rip off 12 consecutive wins. So far, 2 for 2, and we don't know how the final 10 games of the season are going to go. Now, they write ownership is frustrated with the direction and performance of the team and is taking a hard look at Zaidi as he concludes the penultimate year on his contract. So anyway, we will get into could a hot finish save his job, but I do want to get into the specifics of a couple of these games because, as I've said, there are certain things here that matter when we're taking a look ahead. And one of those things is Mike Yastrzemski. We've talked about him specifically a number of times recently because he is a very interesting tender, non-tender decision that the Giants have to make. And he's finishing the year very strong. And he's put up basically typical Mike Yastrzemski numbers, despite he's always going to have ups and downs. Like, that's just kind of how he rolls in a season. But at the end of the day, he ultimately gets to his numbers, basically, is the gist of it. And, you may not like the batting average, but batting average is not the end all be all, let's just say. He basically, Yaz hits for above average power. Like, you think about the amount of singles he hits versus the amount of extra base hits he gets. When he gets his hits, they're often for extra bases. And so that's really where the above average quality, like nature of his performance lies. It's not in batting average. The on base percentages are roughly average, but his slugging numbers are better than league average. And so that, overall makes him above average offensively. And I did just want to look at his career numbers against the Orioles because it's just kind of poetic and awesome to me. It is a small sample of 27 plate appearances coming into tonight, I should say. And tonight, Yastrzemski goes, he goes 1 for 5, but the one hit is a home run, and he didn't have any walks. But yeah, the one hit was a home run. He struck out twice, and it's a 200 average, 200 on base, but an 800 slugging, which is kind of exactly what I'm talking about. So that's a perfect example. The on base and the average in this given game were not good, but the home run makes up for it because a home run makes a big difference. And so 2 straight leadoff homers. So again, not counting tonight, entering tonight, in his career against the Orioles in 6 games, he's punished them. 364 average, 444 on base, 818 slugging. He had homered twice, tripled once, doubled twice, and hit 3 singles. So that's another example. 3 singles and 5 extra base hits coming into tonight. So now 6 extra base hits against 3 singles. And again, we're talking a tiny sample, but the reason this is so significant for him personally is that this is the organization that just simply never gave him a chance. He made his professional debut at age 22 in 2013 with the Orioles organization, and he continued to play for the Orioles organization up until spring training 2019. So that's, 7 years, counting 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 6 full years. And then he was entering his 7th year when they finally traded him to the Giants, who gave him an opportunity after 40 games in the minor leagues when he just tore it up. And so I'm just like Team Yaz just for the story, like the story of overcoming adversity and sticking it out in the minors, and then also sticking it to his former organization, just really stepping up when they are playing Baltimore. So specifically, when they've been at Camden Yards, it's been even better. Exactly entering today, 400 average, 500 on base, 933 slugging with 2 homers in 4 games. So now he's got 3 homers in 5 games. Again, this is like meaningless small sample stuff, but at the same time, it's not meaningless because, there's no doubt he's thinking about it. The Orioles, to some extent, are thinking about it, how they let this guy go. It's not like he's a star player, but here's the thing. The Orioles during those seasons were very bad. And so the fact that if you look at some of those teams, I mean, they were like the worst team going year after year. And maybe it was intentional. Maybe they were tanking and didn't want a useful player on their team, which is despicable, really, because, Mike Yastrzemski had to live that life, like not getting an opportunity. At the same time, the numbers aren't necessarily eye-popping, but put up good AAA numbers in 2018 and yet never got a shot. And the Giants identified, Farhan Zaidi identified. And again, he's not a star. He does not become the next, Max Muncy, who's been better than this in, his career. But Yaz has put up about 12 FanGraphs wins above replacement in his major league career. And he's good for about a solid average major league season each and every year. And so just kudos to him, and just it's so cool to see him basically dominate his former team like this. And you gotta think he's taking things personally when he's facing that other orange team. So coming up in just a minute, we're going to turn our attention to Farhan Zaidi, and does the Giants, like, if they finish strong, does that save his job? And then some comments on KNBR that I've just got to point out that I did not think were appropriate in the least. And the context matters. So we'll get into it in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you in part by FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We've got something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. And speaking of FanDuel.com, I'm looking right now at tomorrow's game between the Giants and the Orioles, with the Giants going for the sweep. And the Giants are underdogs in this game, despite having Logan Webb on the mound. This is a 10 a.m. Pacific time game. The Giants are money line at plus 116. So I don't know about that. They've beat up on the Orioles the last 2 days, and they've got Logan Webb going. I kind of don't know if I would take the Orioles as the favorites there. So again, just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Today's episode of Locked On Giants is also brought to you in part by GameTime. I love going to games, during the summer to watch the Giants, and I didn't get a chance to get out on this last road trip of the year, but I certainly did get out and get to games this year on the road. Went to Fenway Park for the first time, and it was just a magical experience, really. And GameTime made it so much easier because I got two things that are so important to me. And number one, panoramic views from my seat. When I'm at a new venue, I had never been to Fenway Park, especially a quirky park like that. I want to know what does it look like from the seat. And it's not just sports on FanDuel too. You can, not on FanDuel, on GameTime, you can, you go to concerts, theater, all of the above, and get that panoramic view from your seat. And also the GameTime guarantee, which means if you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, GameTime will credit you 110% of the tickets, of the difference, So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. All right, here we go. We are going to get into what I'm calling here, if you're looking at the sidebar, classless remarks about Farhan Zaidi on KNBR that I believe were made this morning. And then we're going to discuss, could a strong finish save Farhan Zaidi's job? Are they still in evaluation mode? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we're going to wait till after the game and then break down Logan Webb versus Zach Eflin and any kind of important storylines that emerge. There seems to be something new every day coming out, clarity on the Farhan Zaidi situation, and more. So there's always something to get into on this show each and every weekday. And again, I apologize for today's episode coming out late. There was just unavoidable situations for me, and I was not able to record earlier than the late evening. So anyway, look out for that tomorrow after the game. So the remarks on KNBR. So these were made by, the show was Murph and Mac. I honestly don't. not to be harsh, but I've personally ignored basically these hosts for a long time because I just tend to not agree with almost anything that they have to say. And so it's KNBR Murph. I'm blanking on his first name, formerly of Murph and Mac. Brian Murphy. There we go. Brian Murphy, who's been doing this forever. So like respect for the grind, right? But at the same time, this guy has always had it out for Farhan Zaidi. And some of the stuff I've seen him writing for, McCovey Chronicles, which I was surprised to see him doing that. First of all, for no other reason than I was just surprised. I didn't know that he would write for McCovey Chronicles, and they're like in the off season a couple years. I think it was Aaron Judge. It was just very pessimistic stuff. Very, very pessimistic the whole time Farhan Zaidi has been in charge. And I get it. I understand the last 3 seasons especially have been disappointing. Before that, you kind of throw 2019 out the window. You don't expect a lot of improvement in year one. It's not enough time. And they were stuck with a bunch of big contracts and underperforming players, and they weren't going to add payroll. Ownership would never say that. Zaidi would never. He's got to cover for ownership. That's kind of his job. And then in year 2, I did not like the decision to hire Gabe Kapler. It was not the choice that I wanted them to make. And I think that most fans generally felt the same way. And so that was unpopular, and I get it. But also they showed a lot of improvement in that 2020 season. They hit like crazy. And then everyone said, oh, but it was a short season, and it was a fluke, and they won't be able to keep it up. And then they hit like crazy again in 2021, and obviously won 107 games. And so at that point, you're looking like things are looking up for this team. But then they had a weak off season. They did not do much. They let people walk like Kevin Gausman. And then it's been a huge disappointment ever since. There's no doubt about it. And I'm talking openly about the distinct possibility that Zaidi could be fired as soon as, the coming days and weeks. However, these comments, so I'm going to read pretty much a direct quote. I tried to make it as precise. There's like ums and all that. So it's slightly edited for clarity, as they say. But I seem to have lost my... Oh, here it is. So I remember this too. He's referencing some KNBR host, I don't remember who it was, said early on in Farhan Zaidi's tenure, when it was like the first season. I think it was like when... I don't remember exactly when, but people overreacted from the start, in my opinion, when it was like opening day and you had Connor Joe and Michael Reed in the outfield, and people lost their minds, like as if they had some other compelling players really to throw out there, right? Like that the team was bad. The team was bad, and they were trying, Connor Joe has proved to be like a useful player in this league, and so they identified some talent there that that was his major league debut, and he had no major league experience. Well, that's what it means to be the major league debut. But anyway, people were losing their minds, and then somebody on KNBR said, in 5 years, trust me, you're gonna be wanting to build the Farhan Zaidi statue, and that's a little bit over the top, or a lot over the top. But at the same time, I did kind of agree that in 5 years, I thought they would be in a really good position. That's essentially what the host was trying to imply. And that's where I'm disappointed. And I agreed that we needed those 5 years or so to really get a sense. And ultimately, it hasn't come to pass. And so, what is his name? Brian Murphy. He's very popular, does the morning show. Again, I have respect for the grind. I just happen to not agree with him on a lot of his opinions. They're very, very pessimistic about Zaidi from the start. Never giving the benefit of the doubt. Never. It has been what I've seen, including in the beginning, as being one of those people who was overreacting. And now doing victory laps on these reports about his kind of shaky status. Victory laps, like just reveling in this. And to me, that alone is kind of like, come on, like we're all supporting the Giants, and Farhan Zaidi has put in, untold amounts of effort doing his best, and his best has not been good enough. Yes, but here are the comments. So he says, I remember hosts, this is a quote from Brian Murphy. I remember hosts here at KNBR saying they're going to build a statue of Farhan Zaidi. We all have bad takes, but that's sort of an example of the Farhan sort of hypnosis of an example the Farhan sort of hypnosis is, they're going to build a statue. Statue? What are you? Statue? Take that thing down like Saddam Hussein. Throw a rope around it and bring it down. End quote. Take that thing down like Saddam Hussein. Throw a rope around it and bring it down. You got some hate, man. You got some hate for this guy. And I am not here for it. Like, I wasn't a fan of the previous, like the way Bobby Evans was running things. I would never say throw a rope around anything to do with him and tear it down. And the fact that, the guy's name is Farhan Zaidi and you're talking about Saddam Hussein. Look, I'm not one to stir the pot here, but it just comes across as an inappropriate comment to me. And again, I'm not the sensitive type really, but Farhan Zaidi, I think he's the first Muslim president of baseball operations for any team. And you're mentioning the name Saddam Hussein here, and you're talking about throwing a rope around something and tearing it down. And so, yeah, do your victory lap, my friend. Do your victory lap, okay? But like, the other thing here that really matters to me is that within this reporting, and my understanding is this was said this morning, okay? But this report from the Chronicle from yesterday, so we're talking on the morning of the 18th, I believe this was said. I'm not 100% sure. Hope maybe there's a timestamp on there. I don't see a timestamp on there, but I saw this come out today. I assume this was today. But the previous day, the 17th, the Chronicle reported that Farhan Zaidi had been hospitalized twice in recent weeks with an undisclosed ailment. And this is the time that you're choosing to make statements like, take that thing down like Saddam Hussein, throw a rope around it, and bring it down. Like, I don't know, man. And then the reaction, there's no remorse. There's no like, oops, what did I just say? It's like a big smile on his face after he says this. And go ahead, man, go off. But do I agree with this? Do I think like, if I didn't like the way someone was running the Giants, I would not have this kind of, I don't think I would, and it's not about me, it's just I don't think it's appropriate, period. So, he may be fired, but like, this guy has had it out, Brian Murphy has had it out for Farhan Zaidi from the moment he was hired, in my opinion. I have never seen a positive remark at all. Like, even the 107, like, there was complaining about something or other from everything I ever saw. So, anyway, we'll move on. And coming up in just a minute, we'll get into could a strong finish to the season, which is still a could. It's not, 2 games against the Orioles don't count as a strong finish. We still have 10 to go, but say they go 10-0, 9-1, 8-2, 7-3, even 6-4. Is that enough to save Farhan Zaidi's job? We'll get into it in just a minute, and before we do, today's episode of Locked on Giants is brought to you in part by Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Ellie De La Cruz rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it is possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent with a full grade rationale provided an explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB, code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase. All right, here we go. We are going to get into, could a strong finish to the season save Farhan Zaidi's job? Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen, maybe today your last listen of the day. Once again, everydayers, tomorrow we will be talking about this final game against the Orioles. Can the Giants sweep? I think these games matter because of the reporting in the Chronicle. As I'm about to say, I think that, yes, a strong finish could save Farhan Zaidi's job. And so, the Giants putting a whooping on the Orioles 10-0 in the first game. Blake Snell, showing what a good signing he was. It's possible they try to hammer out a deal with Blake Snell. We don't know every single day. I mean, Blake Snell, man, he went 6 innings, 12 strikeouts, no runs, 1 hit, 2 walks. Just unbelievable how good this guy has been since he came off the injured list this most recent time. And then you see performances like from Sean Jelly, and you realize guys like Jung-Hoo Lee missed the entire season, and the breakout years we've seen from Elliot Ramos and Tyler Fitzgerald, and what we saw in the 10-0 game from Grant McCray, which was a really nice performance where he went 2 for 2 with 2 walks and 2 stolen bases. So, McCray and Fitzgerald and Birdsong were all picks by this regime. And so, suddenly, and, Yastrzemski doing what he's doing right now, you realize Farhan Zaidi is the one who brought in these guys. So that's the question to be answered. And so in my opinion, a strong finish to the season could, in fact, save Farhan Zaidi's job. I mean, I'm going to reiterate what the Chronicle said, which is, quote, according to industry sources, the Giants board of directors wanted, so I'm going to just amend that and make it say wants, to assess how the season's final weeks play out before making a decision on Zaidi. So the Chronicle's basically concluding that the season didn't end well, but I said at the time, there's still more games. And so if you go 11-1 in their last 12 or something, and they finish above 500 and certain players just really shine or whatever, 12 games is almost 10% of a season. And so it's a small sample, but still things can change. And so anyway, ownership was frustrated, but it says Zaidi has continued to work despite being hospitalized twice in recent weeks with an undisclosed ailment. From the hospital, he conducted business as usual, including negotiating Matt Chapman's new contract. That's just what really gets me. I can't believe you're going to kick a man while he's down health-wise like that. I just can't believe that. Coming from a professional, I would never do that. And so I don't know what the victory lapping when someone's clearly going through something like this. I don't know. Maybe this was recorded before. I need to fact check myself that maybe this. I hope this was recorded before this news about him being hospitalized twice, because we don't know what's going on. If he doesn't know what's going on and just know that you've been hospitalized twice, and then you're going to talk about, tearing down this statue that Zaidi never said, I'm going to have a statue. It was some other some host from your own network who said that. Okay, so it's just spewing hate, and I don't like that. Anyway, the Chronicle continued. Industry sources said the board will do what it considers best for the organization, regardless of Zaidi's contract status, and Posey will have a big role. And also, Scott Boras completely, he said the Athletic story about the Chapman deal, that he took issue with it and that he wasn't contacted for the story. And he said, any report that suggests that Farhan and I did not negotiate the financial package is inaccurate. So again, I'm not really here to defend whatever they do. Like, if they fire him, I wouldn't be shocked. But could they finish strong, and could we see him get one more opportunity? I think it is possible. When you see a performance like tonight, I mean, Hayden Birdsong, the ERA on the night ends up being 4.76, which is just about his season ERA, but the fielding independent pitching is 3.17 in this game tonight. And I don't know. I mean, he's a rookie with a strikeout rate that is well above the major league average. He's kind of got the walks under control the last couple of outings. He just turned 23 on August 30th. And so you start to look at it, like when they're saying they're taking a hard look at Farhan Zaidi, it involves what that means is like taking a hard look at some of these players that they drafted and developed, including, but not limited to, Hayden Birdsong, and finding players like Mike Yastrzemski and, Lamont Wade Jr. and drafting Tyler Fitzgerald. I didn't even mention Patrick Bailey, Grant McCray, Donovan Walton. For all the heat they took for that trade of Prelander-Baroa, Donovan Walton suddenly out here, I guess, after tonight, an 0-for-4 night. But coming into tonight, he had been doing quite well in a handful of games. And so, again, I'm not trying to defend Zaidi. I'm just saying there are, you look at Landon Roop. Suddenly he has emerged as a legitimate rotation candidate, and he was one of their picks as well. He's got a 3.02 ERA on the season and has stepped into a starting pitching role. And Ryan Walker was drafted by the previous regime, but guys like him and Tyler Rogers being given a chance by the current regime. So I don't know. Kyle Harrison, another young player. So anyway, I think it's not set in stone one way or the other. I think they're still in evaluation mode. So my opinion, based on the reporting and based on the way that they have won a couple games here, it just re-emphasizes the point that I was trying to make, which is that the season's not over and they're going to continue to evaluate, I think. Or they've just made a decision already. And again, I wouldn't be shocked by that. But I also wouldn't kick someone while they're down, especially while they're going to the hospital with some kind of illness. Like, what is that? No matter who you are, I don't think you deserve that kind of disrespect. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. I'm grumpy about that. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first or last listen every day. Everydayers, Logan Webb, Zach Eflin, Giants going for a sweep. They've had a lot of failure going for sweeps, but hopefully they can get it done against the Orioles tomorrow. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot, so thank you in advance. And thanks to everyone who's done so already. Can't wait to be with you again tomorrow after the game. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.